Several years after I was rejected from the church, I got a call from Modesto, from Benny and Corita. They told me that they had a young sister in their house that they had had for some time. They had some serious problems with her. They said she had an evil spirit or a demon. They told me that they had had elders and bishops come from various places to pray for her, and the brethren would pray for her in their assemblies, or come to Benny and Corita's house to pray for her. But some time had passed and she's losing weight and she's not doing good. So they asked me to come down. It touched me that they asked me because they knew that I'd been rejected from the church, but nonetheless, I was pleased because it just touched my heart. So I told them that I would come. And I asked a friend of mine, Don Idlett, if he wanted to go, and he said that he did. So on the way down to Modesto from Sacramento, he asked me what it was about, and I told him that they said this girl was possessed with a bad spirit. He said, "You mean like a demon or something?" I said, "Well, I guess so. I don't know." He said, "Well, do you have any plans?" I said, "No, I don't have any plans." "Have you ever dealt with this before?" "No." "Oh, my goodness, Ray," he said, "are you sure you can handle it?" And I said, "Well, I know I can't handle it, but I believe God can." "Yeah, but you don't know if he wants to." "Well, that's not my problem. I'm going to go down there and see what we can do." So we showed up at Benny's house, and he took us in the bedroom where the young lady was. And you have to understand this story sounds extraordinary because you would wonder what the police department would think about it. But these brethren didn't go to church hospitals or deal with doctors. They tried to take care of everything themselves. And the young lady was about 16, 17. She was roped it down, tied to a bed. She had some cotton pads around her ankles and around her wrist, ropes on those, and she was tied to four corners of the bed. So we stepped into the bedroom, and there was a chair sitting right beside her bed, and I sat down in that chair. I looked up, and Don Idlett was standing just inside the room, inside the door, leaning up against the door jamb. I reached out and put my hand on her forearm, and she opened her eyes, and she said, in a very gruff and deep voice, "Paul I know, and Peter I know, but who are you?" And I noticed real quick a fast movement and looked up. Don was gone. He left the room in a real big hurry. I have to admit it was startling, a little scary, but I answered the voice and I said, "It doesn't matter who I am, but I know Jesus of Nazareth." And she began to scream, and her throat was throbbing. Her eyes seemed like they were bulging, but the scariest part of this thing is, I don't know if it's because of the energy or the strength in the ropes, but her whole body levitated off that bed about 4 inches, 5 inches. And I just sat there with my hand on her arm. And after about a minute, it seemed much longer, she collapsed. Well, Benny came in the room, and he and I visited for quite a while, a little over an hour, I think it was, sitting beside the young lady. And he told me to go home, and he would keep in touch with me over the phone to let me know what was going on, what was happening. So on the way home, Don said, well, did you get to pray for her? I said, no. I said, in my mind, I was asking God to help me. I said, I was just startled, to tell you the truth. He said, did you ever let go of her arm? I said, no. And he's kind of making a joke out of it because I really didn't know. I said, I had to hang on to something. But it was a terrifying moment. But I sat there and held her arm. The next morning, Benny called me and told me that they had unleashed her, untied her, and they said that they were feeding her not very much because she hadn't been eating very much, and trying to get some broth and a little soup and water down her. A week later, he called me and told me that she was up and around. She was doing fine. She was in good spirits. I heard about her again about 40-something years later up around Cushing, Oklahoma. She'd been up there and she'd stayed with cousins of mine, and she had never had a relapse. Seemed like to this day she's doing just fine. But I remember on the way back to our house from Modesto, Don said to me, Ray, he said, never, ever, ever again am I going to go with you on one of your little praying trips.